Have you ever wondered why Michael Jordan's flu game became larger than basketball itself? Why a single pair of black and red shoes still carries mythology decades later? Because deep down, people recognize something eternal inside that story. A human being continuing to move forward while the outer world says collapse. And that's what today's transmission is really about. So welcome back to the Be Well Forest. I'm I Paint Creatures, also known as IPC. I'm a painter, poet, filmmaker, musician, Renaissance man, and this is another transmission from the making of the MATSUU StoryVerse. You see, for years I collected Jordans, and at first I thought it was just style, the colors, the energy, the culture, the feeling. But eventually I realized it was much deeper than shoes. You see, hip-hop culture helped me rebuild identity out of a broken sense of self. I grew up inside the aftermath of Japanese internment camp trauma. My parents and grandparents carried fear, silence, suppression, survival. I barely even knew my own Japanese roots growing up. Then later, I was diagnosed with an unknown tumor in my left arm. The doctors talked about possible amputation. And then it took me 5 high schools to graduate. I ran the streets. I felt completely outside the normal system. But hip hop gave me a way to rebuild. Through the music, through fashion, through poetry, through visual art, through storytelling, through entrepreneurship, through creating culture instead of waiting for identity to be handed to me. And that's why the Jordans hit me differently, especially the flu game 12s, black and red. The black remind me of the void, the uncertainty, the unknown, the hidden self, the night, the struggle, the shrouds we all move through. And the red reminded me of the rising sun, the fire, the passion, the movement, the blood, that is the life force, the courage to keep going. And then one day I really studied the actual flu game story. You see, Jordan was physically collapsing on the court, sweating, shaking, throwing up. The outer world saw on the television weakness. But internally, something deeper kept him moving. And that's what inspired my new poem. Because that's the same principle exists throughout the MATSUU StoryVerse. And honestly, you don't even need to fully understand all the mythology to receive something from it. Just like you don't need to understand the physics of sunlight to become illuminated by it. The most creative act that one person could do isn't becoming an artist. It's learning how to fully be who you truly are before the outside world starts defining you. Before fear, before labels, before shame, before survival mode, before the world convinces you to shrink yourself in order to fit. And that's the real purpose of the MATSUU StoryVerse. Not escaping, it's about remembrance. You see, every poem, every creature, every painting, every transmission inside the MATSUU StoryVerse was created to help people shine their story stone. Because basically, the story stone is the untarnished self, the original spirit underneath all the outside noise, limitations, conditions, appearances, and fear. You don't need to become somebody else. You don't need permission to exist fully exactly who you are. And MATSUU was created to remind people there is already something luminous inside them, waiting beneath all the static. And that's why in MATSUU we say, be funky. Meaning, don't become the best at what everyone else is doing. Become the only one who does what you do. And then just be free. Free from the fear of judgment. Free from the fear of failure. Free from the fear of poverty. Free from the fear of rejection. Free from needing the outside world to define your value. And eventually, you become funkified, meaning you stop waiting for the outside world to tell you who you are. You think from instead of think of. You get that feeling of fulfillment right now. You move from fulfillment. You live from fulfillment. That's really what I've been embodying lately. Even yesterday, I was teaching youth in the juvenile hall. I was showing them you can build your own voice, your own art, your own music, your own business, your own platform, your own future. You can transform survival energy into creation by just being exactly who you are. And that's hip hop. That's MATSUU. That's making art together, supporting universal unity. And the deeper lesson of the flu game is this. You see, all the circumstances do not fully define the human spirit. Neville Goddard talked about living from the fulfilled state before the outer world reflects. Mihaly called it simply flow. Musashi taught remaining inwardly steady inside chaos. And in the MATSUU StoryVerse, we call it polishing the story stone. Because once the story stone shines, the outer world slowly starts bending around the sustained vision. Movement, participation, resources, belief. And that's why the Jordans flu game became mythology. People recognize something inside themselves through it. The ability to continue moving before proof appears. The ability to carry vision through adversity. The ability to move through darkness while something eternal inside keeps rising anyway. That's the story stone. That's the MATSUU StoryVerse transmission. That's the heart of the MATSUU StoryVerse. So today, I wanted to perform the poem that arrived through all this. It's about the flu game, the mythology behind the movement, the transmission behind the shoes, the deeper story about the movement through adversity. So welcome once again to the MATSUU StoryVerse. And let's all begin shining, still keep creating our worlds. That's the current. That's the story stone. That's the transmission. That's the heart of the MATSUU StoryVerse. So if this speaks to something inside you, if you ever felt like the misfit, the outsider, the dreamer, the one rebuilding yourself through darkness, then you're already part of the StoryVerse. So right after this, go watch the full performance poem. It's called Disease Never Stopped the Sun from Rising. Because that poem is the transmission behind everything we talked about today. If you want to keep journeying deeper into the MATSUU StoryVerse, through I Paint Creatures poems, paintings, creatures, teaching, music, meet Shigin the boy, the films, the transmissions like this, make sure you subscribe. And let's have a dialogue. Leave a comment. Enter the StoryVerse through all the links below. And if this transmission really speaks to you, I created a free reflection I call a video scroll. Inspired this video to help you go deeper into the ideas and practice explored right here. You can download it, enter the MATSUU StoryVerse through the links below. This is I Paint Creatures, IPC. Be funky, be free, and keep on shining your story stone, and then live your painted poetic symphony.